And we've been talking this morning about the growing concern around so-called legal highs. The number of police incidents has risen by almost 3,000% here in Lancashire over the last 5 years, according to figures obtained by the independent think tank, the Centre for Social Justice. Now, the issue has been brought into focus after the Liverpool footballer, Raheem Sterling, was filmed apparently inhaling nitrous oxide, also known as laughing gas, which is sold as a legal high. Now, earlier, we spoke to Steve Pope, who is a psychotherapist from the Fylde Coast. He says legal highs are a big problem.
Nitrous oxide depletes the brain of oxygen, and if the no oxygen in the brain, it causes damage. And it's everywhere at the moment, all down the promenade in Blackpool, all around Blackpool, you can get the nitrous oxide.
Well, the Centre for Social Justice has called for a robust response, including new police powers to close shops that persist in selling legal highs. Let's talk to Rupert Oldham-Reid, who did the research for the Centre for Social Justice. He joins us live on Breakfast this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
These figures are shocking, aren't they?
It is. It is a very worrying trend, and it's not just the police incidents. We also saw that the number of people being admitted to hospital over the last few years had risen by about 50%, and also those going into addiction treatment services had gone up significantly. Britain's got the highest number of users of legal highs of any country in Europe, and we really need the government to get involved because these drugs. They're just as dangerous, or can be just as dangerous, as illegal drugs, and often just as addictive.
And is the problem, it has that word legal in front of it, and people think, well, if it's legal, then I know what I'm taking, everything will be okay, it must be all right, I can buy it over the counter.
We certainly heard from charities up and down the country that the people they were working with often said that was the case, why they first tried them, because you can go into a high street shop and buy it over the counter, just like you could a packet of sweets or, some washing up liquid. It's that easy. And therefore there comes across a sign that they're somehow approved, tested, subject to trading standards. And although they are actually packaged up like sweets and sold for pocket money prices, they're not, they're not for human consumption, and they say that. But you go into any of these shops, and I've been into a few, and there's a clear intention there that everybody knows what's going on.
Yeah, we've had an owner of a shop in Blackpool in the studio, and as you say, they're all packaged up with various different odd names, and it all says not for human consumption. And if the person owning the shop thinks they're going to shove it up the nose or whatever, they shouldn't sell them it. But that is the only reason people buy it, isn't it?
Well, I mean, we saw in Ireland that the only way to get round this sort of loophole in the law is to introduce a blanket ban on their sale and then give the police and the courts the powers to close down those shops that refuse to stop selling them. And until that happens, the government will always be one step behind in trying to ban these substances because they are similar to, say, cocaine or LSD. They test them and then they will ban them, but it takes such a long process that the chemists are always one step ahead. And because they can be sold openly on the high street, there is that myth that they're safe. And so until we get on top of this problem, like they did in Ireland, then we are going to be behind the curve. In Ireland, we spoke to doctors across hospitals there, and they said the difference before the ban and after was like night and day. Before, they were having many young people admitted, especially on the weekend, having suffered overdoses, heart failure, respiratory failure, and after the ban, they said the figures went off a cliff, and the problem was substantially reduced.
And who's making all these legal highs? Where do they come from?
They come from a range of places, but India and China are two of the main exporters of these drugs. All it takes is for one molecule to be tweaked in these compounds, and suddenly they're outside the law and can be sold. So they're almost an infinite combination of these drugs that are available, and it's big business, sadly.
And I imagine they cost pennies to make. And how much are they being flogged for?
Well, you can get packets of this stuff for, say, £5, maybe £10, and these drugs are equivalent to, say, cocaine, which might go for £60. So you can see the real danger.
So, as you say, you know, people are turning up to A&E departments of hospitals, and they are, to say they're worse for wear is a understatement, because they've taken something, and they've taken something that they don't know what effect that it will have on them. And I imagine the doctors and nurses are thinking, what on earth have we actually got here?
Yeah, well, exactly. We spoke to doctors, and they say the amount of time they have to spend sort of trying to get answers from people.
Working out what they've taken, yeah.
Exactly. When obviously they're often not in the best position to give answers.
Yeah.
It leads to all sorts of complications, and this is at a time when, you know, A&E departments are under enough stress, as it is.
Okay.
That's why we need the parties to act. I mean, the three main political parties have now accepted our recommendation to bring in this ban. But they need to get on and do it, frankly.
But someone's making an awful lot of money out of this, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
And I think that's the big question that's why we need the law to intervene, because it shows that people who know exactly what they're selling, and you said you've had the head shop owners in before, they know exactly what's going on here. But as long as you've got people willing to make money out of the harm that they're causing to young people, then we need the government to intervene.
Okay. Rupert, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Rupert Oldham-Reid. Who did the research for the Centre for Social Justice. And the thing is, and we've had one of the owners of one of the shops in Blackpool here, on all the little bags or whatever, it says not for human consumption. Because, you know, you shouldn't take it. You shouldn't take it as a pill or sniff it or whatever. But the people in the shops sell them to whoever, knowing that's why they're going to get them. Knowing that's why they bought them. And someone somewhere is making